Welcome yet again for another interview, ladies and gentlemen. And today we have your favorite top cutter and person that usually doesn't know who they are. It is WhatAmI, and this time he doesn't only top cut, this time he wins again. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. It felt really good to finally take down a Duels of Runeterra. That one's been around since the beginning, and getting that check mark on the tournament list feels pretty great.
Hmm. Actually, which tournament did you not take down? That might be interesting. I know you did Fight Night, I know you did Lorga,
Um,
now DR.
I've got Fight Night, I've got Lorga, I've got OLS. I think one of the few that I still haven't taken down. I won the I think I got the RCO. I still need to win the Brazilian Open at some point. I've managed to top cut that one, but I've not yet won a Brazilian Open. So I'm coming for you.
Alright, after a few more top cuts, of course. Alright, but I think your lineup was dubbed pretty spicy by the casters as well as by the people because we do see Go Hard coming back again. Why, Jordan? Why?
Clearly because I'm a terrible person and want to send us back to the days of TF murdering everybody. But real talk, it was a meta call. I don't think it's necessarily like a really high power or tier one deck. People have called it a very fair deck, which is what it is. It's very good against aggro, and it's very good against very specific varieties of mid range in Draven Ezreal and Ash LeBlanc. And I expected a lot of that type of Noxus based mid range and a lot of aggro, and it performed how I wanted it to.
So I take it that you found the lineups that you were searching for when you built up this deck?
Yeah, this is definitely a. I've actually done okay with this deck in ladder as well. But it's definitely a call. Anybody who knows me knows that I like playing polarized decks. And this is definitely not a deck where you're going to go 50-50 with everything. There's some pretty bad matchups out there.
Yeah, we'll know that you like polarized junky polarized decks.
He's not wrong. He's not wrong.
Did you try with someone this one? I don't remember seeing it on stream. Did you try it actually? Or did it just
So I
was a bit?
actually I played some on ladder. I did a little bit of testing with people with it, but mostly I just played it on ladder because and I'm gonna be real, when I tested it with some of the people in Mad Men, mostly I got made fun of for trying to bring this deck. But you know what? It worked, damn it.
If it works, they do not get to make fun of you. But the 2-2-2 split, how did that come by?
Okay, so that one is actually because of Dreadway. Um, the answer is originally this was usually in an Elise Twisted Fate deck, sometimes with a one of Gangplank. The second Gangplank is there because you don't want to have a Dreadway that doesn't draw you your Gangplank because you drew your one of. So with two in the deck, you're very likely to always have that one extra to draw. Twisted Fate is just really good. Red card works with the kegs. Elise is just good early pressure. And then I really do like Gangplank just as a card in general in this deck. Like it's kind of a split between Go Hard and Keg Control, right? It's definitely not the traditional aggro tempo Go Hard.
And what's happening with the deck since the days of glory, since Go Hard was actually dominant? What actually changed about, or what were the feelings for you when you tested it?
Sure. So one of the big deals is you can't do Ladros and Go Hard in the same turn anymore. And that used to be this deck's bread and butter end game. Like I was the guy who was running two Ladros because literally all you need to do to win the game is you get to turn 9, you go Ladros, pack your bags, game ends, go home. You can't do that combo anymore, and also you end up having to heal up a lot more mana for pack your bags, even to represent pack your bags. So the deck has definitely gone way down in power level. That said, the deck was tier 0. It was busted, right? And with the slight buff to Dreadway, Dreadway is another really good win condition. And the just continual card advantage of the deck, the grindy power, and the multiple gangplanks you can get off Dreadway drawing them, it becomes a pretty solidly mid-range grindy deck. It's definitely not tier 0. It's arguably not even tier 1, but it's a good tournament call depending on what your meta looks like.
That is interesting. And maybe we are going to see it again in the future now that they're making it popular. Because also like to try decks that seem spicy or interesting, or lineups that win tournaments. Why not? But moving forward, the next deck. This is a Jordan favorite already. Everyone knows that when you say Targon, Atrocity, Invoke, you say WhatAmI. Pretty much.
Yeah. I made this one. I've been on it from the beginning. I've been on it when it's been maybe not the best call, and I've been on it when it has been a good call. So I will admit this one's a little bit of a pet deck of mine, but it's glad to finally take down a win with it.
And this deck had some interesting turns. First, I think it was Zoe Diana, then we're moving to Aphelios Diana or Aphelios Zoe, and then we're going back to Zoe Diana. So, what did this deck lose when we're going back to Zoe Diana?
So it's both lost and gained, right? When we saw Aphelios and Temple get nerfed, we have kind of one win condition that isn't here anymore. Because if you ever just stick in Aphelios, you just accidentally win the game, and that's part of why that card needed to be nerfed so badly, right? Like I am a Targon fan, and I was very much in favor of that card getting the axe. Maybe not as much as he did. That was a little harsh, but needed it. We get back when we see Diana a little bit more of that aggressive early game potential and that kind of tempo play. Because Diana into aggro decks, I don't know if anyone was watching the finals, but she blows them out of the water. It's like paying 2 mana for Mystic Shot and make a 2/2. That is not fair when your opponent is trying to aggro you down. So Diana does some seriously powerful work in those matchups.
Right, and we have also seen some, I think people call slow Nightfall. What are your opinions on that? Do you think that that list is better in certain situations, or the list just serve different purposes?
I I honestly don't understand the slow Nightfall list. I think that both super aggressive Nightfall and this version of SI Targon are both really solid decks for different reasons. The one in the middle, and maybe that's just my heart as the polarized player. I don't really like going to the middle of things. I want to be on one end of the spectrum or another. I have never been a fan of running through the middle. So that may be why I don't get the slow Nightfall as much. But that's my take on the deck. I probably wouldn't run it.
Right, and we also see the comeback of the majestic The Sky's Descent.
I mean, so this I always used to run this, and what it was specifically was a Targon mirror breaker, right? And when you're playing Targon against Targon, you often get these big stalled boards, and even more when you're playing into someone playing Asol, right? Because they want to stall the board and just play that Asol. And if you have Sky's Descend, or even worse, they play an Asol and you go Hush plus Sky's Descend, that will often just end the game on the spot, and it will give you all the time you need to get there. With the advent of the Fangs to this deck, it's actually become even better because you have so many between Zoe, Fangs, Scryer, Sketcher. You have so many little invoke cards. You can actually get Sky's Descent to be 9 or even 7 mana a surprising amount of the time. And it'll show up and take down even some of the mid-range matchups now. So I stand behind that card, as spicy as it looks.
As spicy as it looks, and I think you were the first to experiment with Moonlight Affliction into this deck, and now we see 2 copies of Moonlight Affliction. What's the reasoning behind adding another one?
So I absolutely love Moonlight Affliction, both in general and in this deck. Some people will call that a pet card for me, because I definitely run it probably more than anyone else. But it does a couple of really good things. First of all, the ability to hit more than one touch target can be a really big deal sometimes. Again, I don't know if people were watching my tournament run or not, but I had a game where my opponent had a leveled Thresh, played Nasus, attacked with 2 Nasuses, and then died to a Moonlight Affliction. So that's a big deal. And second of all, it doubles as a win condition. You can get huge wins out of nowhere by just burst getting rid of 2 of their blockers and just swinging in with like an Eclipse Dragon and then actroing their face. It has a lot of versatility, and I feel really good about the 2/2 split between that and Hush.
Right, so we did get the explanations on pretty much what is spicy in here, what is good, what is bad, but moving forward to the last deck, and this one is pretty spicy. Not really, you already know what we're talking about. It's not really the deck because it's been really here for a lot of time, but Matron, let's say bullshit for the people that are not speaking German.
Oh my goodness.
I remember when I was reaching into your stream and I was like, I hope you do not bring triple target. And you're like, I'm not bringing it, but I'm bringing triple SI, which is a little bit better.
Yeah. It's like you know what? I did not bring triple target. That is not what happened. Oh goodness.
But why Matron again? What are the strengths? I think it's a deck that usually sees a lot of play and it's usually strong in the meta. And by knowing you usually do not pick decks that are strong in the meta. You usually go against the flow.
So I took Matron, and I definitely have some of my own tech choices in here, but I took Matron again because I was trying to make a lineup that was going to be really solid against what I expected to be a ridiculous amount of aggro in this tournament, and also a reasonable amount of mid-range and a reasonable amount of Zoe Asol. And Matron kind of checks all of those boxes really well, right? We have all of the big AoEs to sweep up the crazy spiders. We have, and again, this is my tech choice. I have the second Ruination here, where a lot of people are on 1 or even 0. Because I just wanted that extra oomph against those mid-range decks, whether it's Draven Ezreal or the Overwhelms or Ash LeBlanc, and I thought that was really important. And then finally, against Sol Zoe with this deck, a lot of people have said that it's very Sol favored, and I'm one of the people who completely disagrees with that. I think it is, assuming very good play on both sides, it is slightly Matron favored. And a lot of people do not play that matchup correctly from the Matron side, and that's why it feels like the Sol decks win more than they should.
Right. But looking back at the lineup, you told us a bit before going through all the decks what you tried to target with the Ledger's Dreadaway deck, but what was your general target in terms of lineup?
So it was less a specific target and more an anti-target, if that makes sense. So I wanted to be solid against aggro, so you could call that my target. But more than anything, my theory going into this tournament was I'm going to take 3 decks that are all bad against Lee, right? If I'm going to take 3 really good decks that I like playing, and if Lee Sin shows up, I'm going to cry. And they're all also pretty bad against Matron. Like, you can see I have no Catalysts in this list. I don't want to play the Matron Mirror. That sounds fucking terrible. But that said, I can do that as long as I think that there are going to be either none or very few people bringing Lee and Matron in the same lineup. Because as long as those don't both show up at the same time, I never have to play against either of them because I get to ban whichever of them shows up. And because I think those are decks that often showed up in different lineups, at least this weekend, I don't know if I'll be able to get away with this again, I effectively got to play a lineup with double bans that was very well teched against the entire rest of the format.
Five-head.
Yeah, that was the plan.
Alright, but the tournament is done and dusted. You won, congratulations, yada yada. But do we expect to see the same type of meta in the seasonal or something similar?
So the seasonal's not for another week and a half, and I don't know if y'all remember last time, but the amount of meta shift that happened in the last even like 3 or 4 days leading up to the seasonal was astronomic. So is there a chance that I will try to run this lineup again? Sure, I liked it, I had fun, it was great. Do I think that I'm not going to put more serious consideration into what I think is actually going to show up versus what my meta call was this time? Hell yeah, I am. This is not a stable metagame, y'all. We have an open field.
But if you had to name, let's say, 3 decks that you expect to see quite consistently in the seasonal or in the tournaments to come, because we still have some weekends between the seasonal, what would you expect? What would be the 3 top decks that everyone would bring or would like to bring?
So, I mean, you're asking me my pillars in the metagame question, right? This is what I talk about every time I talk about lineup construction. I think TLC, definitely. I think Demacia Asol, definitely. And then I think either Spider-Burn or Lee. Lee has been kind of on a downswing lately, but that makes me think that I'm going to see more of it than I would otherwise, honestly, because the more that Lee swings down, the more likely it is people are going to want to play it because nobody's targeting it anymore. And Lee is a deck that when it's not targeted does really, really well, and when it is, suffers. The other kind of breakout deck of this tournament, we saw a lot of Draven Ezreal doing really well. So Draven Ez may be back in force. So those are kind of my like 3 and 2.5 pillars to answer Caspian's question.
Alright, but I think we mention usually that one guy that brings triple aggro. And this time, people actually bring aggro very consistently. Do we expect to see even more people to bring aggro?
Yeah, so here's the thing, and it's all a metagame call, right? The reason aggro is so popular right now is because we have a very balanced game after the last patch, and I love that, right? We don't have any crazy tier 0, tier 1 decks, and what that means that the aggro decks get to be really powerful, sometimes even against the things that are targeting them. I actually made a last minute switch off of Asol Zoe because I was playing Radiant Guardians and Sun Forgers and Fangs, and I was still losing to spiders. Like, the aggro decks are very powerful right now, and even when people are targeting them, they have serious percentage points. I expect them to keep showing up, and I don't think it's a bad call either.
We're going to say it's definitely rock, paper, scissors, like everywhere. You cannot be sure about what someone brings. 1 week someone wins with triple aggro, 1 week someone wins with triple control, 1 week someone wins with, I don't know, Juan Smith with Zoe Victor and what. We know what we're talking about. Yeah, but
And I think that's really kind of the point of the very balanced metagame, right? Because in a metagame like this, it becomes much closer together, even the matchups that are theoretically counter matchups, right? Because if my counter lineup only gets 55 or 60% in the matchup it's good against, and also only 40 to 45% in the matchup it's bad against, then you can see control lineups get run over by aggro. You can see it. You can see everything swing back and forth because we have a very balanced metagame, and I think that's awesome myself.
and if we're expecting this, I think, or at least you can confirm, or that would comfort actually play a big factor into this, because the meta is going back and forth, and I think comfort is going to be the main thing that either raises you or makes you fall.
So I don't want to say comfort exactly, but I will say the decks you're good at, right? I think that as long as you have a lineup that has a solid plan, it almost doesn't matter what that plan is. You definitely can choose better or worse plans for a given week and a given metagame, but if you have a lineup with a solid plan, then what's going to matter is how well you can play your decks. Because I like to think that I'm a pretty good player, but I was trying to pick up like Thresh Nasus on stream yesterday, and I don't think I got through like half a game without terrible misplays. So know your lineup. Whatever you're gonna bring, don't bring stuff you don't know just because you think it's a good meta call. It will not go well for you.
I think we have seen with the first season where people were like, alright, go hard is a thing, let's try to counter it. Failed miserably. Alright, we're going to pick go hard because it's broken, but I do not have any experience. Anyways, go hard is broken, so I have to win. No, it's not happening. Know your things. Alright, and with this done and dusted, we managed to get some tips from you for the seasonal, maybe. Now it's coming to that part when you're talking about the people that helped you out, and besides the madmen, which usually help you, of course, who else helped you along the way?
All right, if I'm not shouting out the madmen, I will give a shout out to Mr. Rattling Bones, who I definitely bounced some ideas off of. He is a total boss, and I will also go ahead and give a shout out to my boy MTuck, who is not a member of the Madmen, but is a great scrim partner and a font of crazy tech.
And probably the best Hexor Foundry player that ever existed and that will ever exist.
Truth. Truth. That guy taught me how to play Frozen Foundry.
I think he's going to play it even in a meta where it is not good. He's going to find a way to make it work. But yeah, thank you, Jordan, for being around, for sharing some of your wisdom, talking through the pillars of the meta theory as you tell us about it, talking us through the spicy lineup that you had here, ending with a pretty good deck and with a pretty interesting game that we chose for this one. And other than that, congratulations again for the tournament, and ladies and gentlemen, we hope this video was useful, and see you next time.